Good evening, San Diego. Welcome to Military Mondays. I am your sit-in host for Daniel Lehman. He is off this month, and so we're excited to be sharing our show with some really amazing women today. So we've got information on strengthening military families and really some really important things for us to know about caregiving. And if you are a military caregiver out there, life is hard, and there's a lot of serious issues that go along with that. Suicide rates are increasing among caregivers, and it doesn't have to be that way. There is help out there for you. So we've got Lori here from Southern Caregiver Association. She is amazing, and she's a very, very good friend here in San Diego. Has been doing this for 30 years. So Lori, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Eve.
Now, you have a 30-year background in helping caregivers through this organization, the Southern Caregiver Resource Center. This was your baby, and it still is in many ways, although you've given the reins over this month, actually. So talk to us about how all of this started, because I think there's a lot of people out there, men and women, who are providing care to loved ones and who are stressed out. They don't know that there's help. They think they're alone, and life is hard. So talk about why you started this and what's transpired in that 30 years.
So back in 1987, I started Southern Caregiver Resource Center, and it was set up to really help family caregivers that were caring for individuals with Alzheimer's disease, stroke, Parkinson's, and other cognitive impairments. Since then, over the years, we've expanded the mission to serve really all chronic and disabling conditions, and in particular, with Operation Family Caregiver, military and veteran caregivers. But 30 years ago, and even today, a lot of people don't really identify with the word family caregiver. And when I started the program back in 1987, even Alzheimer's disease wasn't very well known. And really the idea for the Caregiver Resource Centers throughout California came from a group of women up in San Francisco that were advocating for their husbands that they couldn't take care of any longer. They had Alzheimer's, although at that time no one really knew what that was. They didn't know what dementia was. And so the caregivers, through grassroots advocacy, started the concept for the Caregiver Resource Centers. And through legislation, 11 of these centers were established through California. And then subsequently, when President Clinton was in office, he set up the National Family Caregiver Support Program, of which now every state in the country has supportive services for family caregivers. And in San Diego, SCRC offers, free support for family caregivers, like I said, of all chronic and disabling conditions. And you can call our office and get help through an assessment, case management, respite care, counseling, legal services, education, and training. And so it's a very, very good resource if you're a caregiver in San Diego.
And so when you talk about people sometimes not identifying themselves as a caregiver, can you talk about that? Because I'm sure there's people listening today that think nothing of taking care of their husband, wife, children, and they don't think of themselves as caregivers.
That is a huge part of the problem because people don't understand that they're a caregiver. They think, I'm just taking care of my mom, or I'm taking care of my dad, or it's my husband. Of course I'm going to do this. And they never think about, what they're doing and that they weren't trained to do a lot of the tasks that they're doing. And they don't reach out for help for themselves. They're very good about advocating for help and support for their loved one.
Right.
But when you ask them questions about themselves, in fact, when we do assessments with family caregivers and we're asking them, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What do you need? They very often cannot even articulate what they're needing or what they're feeling because nobody ever asks them about themselves. And so they don't identify that they need help and support. And if you don't identify as a caregiver, you're not going to look for that support that you desperately need. And you feel isolated.
So some of there's a flyer that you guys have out, and you ask a bunch of questions on that flyer to help people identify themselves as a caregiver. So there's like an obvious one, like you assist in the care of a disabling wound, injury, or illness of a family member. So, that's the obvious one. What are some of the other questions you can ask yourself to say, okay, am I really a caregiver?
Right, because you don't really identify. Sometimes we'll say, well, are you running to the grocery store? Are you having to schedule all the medical appointments? Are you actually having to do physical care for your loved one? Are you having to pay all the bills? Are you having to do all of the chores within the family? Are you having to provide emotional support? And oftentimes, you may not be providing that hands-on physical care, but you're there for that person emotionally, and you're having to be on tap 24 hours a day to take care of that loved one. And so sometimes we break it down into some of the concrete activities that you're doing. It's like, well, wait a minute, I am doing that. Even for myself, for, probably, 15 or so years ago, I was, making meals for, a family member, and I was going to the grocery store, and I was doing all of these things. And I run Southern Caregiver Resource Center, or I did, and I never even thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm a caregiver too, but I didn't even identify. So it's very hard. And I think when you're looking at, the younger caregivers today that are caring for, military and veterans, their average age are in their 20s and 30s. And so when they think of being a caregiver, it's like somebody caring for their grandparents. And so they completely do not acknowledge that they're a caregiver, and that keeps them very isolated. And that's why oftentimes there isn't any support for caregivers, because nobody knows about the help that they need.
Right. And that is so important, especially with the young people. And we're going to talk about that later as well. I think the age of the caregivers is decreasing. Is
Absolutely.
That right?
When I first started the program, most of the caregivers that we had were older, in their 80s. And then now the average age of the caregivers that we're seeing are in their 50s. And I think that has a lot to do with the baby boomer generation and all of that. But again, we have a segment of the population that's much younger now and are going to be caregivers for the next 50 years. And those are the military and veteran caregivers.
Wow. So let's talk about that, because you've got, Tom Hanks is obviously a superstar, and he's now getting behind this full force and being your spokesperson. So talk about what you're doing for the military and their families.
So that's the Hidden Heroes campaign. And that was set up through the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. Senator Dole, who is a big advocate for caregivers, when her husband, Bob, was in Walter Reed, she started talking to a lot of families that were going through a lot of experiences and talking to the caregivers who felt very isolated. So she set up this whole campaign for Hidden Heroes. And Tom Hanks is the spokesperson for that, which is great because everybody loves Tom Hanks.
Of course.
And we're hoping that through this campaign across the country that caregivers will come out of the woodwork and identify that they need help and support. And so San Diego, through Mayor Faulkner, was the first city in the country to sign on as the Hidden Heroes City. And we've been working since last October. The campaign started in September of 2016. We've been working since last October to put together a blueprint that, all cities in the country can use if they want to. And since San Diego signed on, there's now probably well over 100 cities that have signed up to be a Hidden Heroes City. And what the campaign really means, there's three components of it. The first is identification and awareness, and it gets back to, what you mentioned before, that caregivers do not identify. And so it's really trying to get caregivers to identify that they're a caregiver, to register on the Hidden Heroes site, hiddenheroes.org, because one of the things that they want to do is to track where all of these caregivers live across the country, because to date, we don't really know where caregivers are and what type of help is needed. And so the first part is, again, to identify and register. The second piece is the awareness piece. And so that's where Tom Hanks comes in, and he's done national PSAs. And across San Diego County, if you're out and about at various locations, you may see his face trying to get caregivers to recognize that they need help and support. But it's also to get the whole community on board that there is a segment of the population. Across the country, there's 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers and 1.1 million post 9/11. And that's a huge segment of the population. But if you ask the average person, they don't think about that, because most often, unless you're connected to the military, you're not really thinking about the military. And so we're trying to get the whole community in San Diego on board. So it's the public sector, the private sector, corporate America. We want people to recognize and understand that caregivers have needs themselves. And then the final piece is really to look at the resources available for caregivers. And there are hardly any resources. Southern Caregiver Resource Center has Operation Family Caregiver, which is a program out of the Rosalind Carter Institute. That program really is a very good program for military and veteran caregivers that works one-on-one with them for 4 to 6 months. It's free. It's confidential. It doesn't duplicate services that they might be getting through the VA. And that's where caregivers can really look at, their own issues and needs that they have apart from their veteran, apart from their kids, that, they need help and support. But, moving forward, we're trying to look at developing additional resources. And, of course, that takes money. So we're hoping through all of this visibility and awareness that, money will be coming down the pike for military and veteran caregivers, because I think, with this segment, They're young. They're going to be caring for their family member that may have PTSD or traumatic brain injury for the next 50 years. And so it's going to have a huge impact, not only on their lives, but on society in general.
You absolutely need that help. And you're listening to AM 1170 right here with Lori Van Tillburg with Caregiver Resource Center. And she has done an amazing work in raising awareness here in San Diego about the need to support those who are supporting the wounded. And so when we have these veterans coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, and they're injured, everybody focuses on them. We've got Wounded Warrior Foundation. We've got all these other organizations that are nonprofits that are completely focused on helping that person get sports prosthetics, helping that person go out and go golfing again, helping that person get acclimated into the civilian workforce with their disabilities, helping educate companies about, okay, this person has PTSD. How do we accommodate the workplace for them if they've got PTSD? So all this focus is on the person that is wounded or injured, and none of the focus is on the caregiver. And we're going to be right back after these messages right here on AM 1170 KCBQ, theanswer.com, with more answers for you. Don't go away.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Hi, this is Flossie Hall, owner of Healthy Mama. I started Healthy Mama because I'm a mother of 4 and a military spouse and had a hard time finding healthy options for my family. I started this company to help keep my family on track with healthy meals without having the complicated tasks of cooking all day, every day. We offer the most affordable meal prepping service in San Diego. Healthy meals delivered to your door every Sunday. All you do is heat and eat. Order Healthy Mama meal prepping today at www.healthy-mama.com.
Before I got the opportunity to come to Workshops for Warriors, I was a hospital corpsman in the Navy for 5 years, had 2 combat deployments. I got out in August 2014. Things didn't really work out as planned. Had a hard time getting back into the civilian life. I really didn't have a lot going on for me. I had just failed out of college. I didn't have any certifications to transfer over to the civilian sector in the medical field. So I was kind of in a dark place. And once I came to Workshops for Warriors, it gave me hope again. I've earned over 15 nationally recognized certifications in the manufacturing and welding industry. Since then, I've gotten a job offer, making really good money, and it's definitely changed my life a lot. And I was in a very dark place before I met Hernan, and this is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel for me. Workshops for Warriors, it really saved my life.
Workshops for Warriors is a school in San Diego that trains and certifies veterans into advanced manufacturing careers, all at no cost to the veteran. They leave with portable and stackable nationally recognized credentials. Visit WFWUSA.org to learn more.
I'm Sean Vandiver. I'm a San Diegan and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I have veteran friends from all across the political spectrum, but there's one thing the best of us have in common. We want to keep the world safe so that we can make it a better place. That's why I joined the Truman National Security Project. We are a nationwide community forged in the aftermath of 9/11, fighting for America's promise on the battlefield, along the campaign trail, and in the halls of government. So check Truman Project out online on Twitter at Truman Project, on Facebook at Truman National Security Project, and online at trumanproject.org.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Welcome back, San Diego. You are listening to Military Mondays right here on KCBQ AM 1170. And we are in studio with Lori Van Tillburg from the Caregiver Resource Center. And we're talking about hidden heroes. And this is a program where you, as a caregiver of someone who is in the military and has been injured, where they have PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, or they're wearing prosthetics, whatever it is, you're taking care of this person. You are a caregiver and you have help out there. There are resources for you that Lori is talking about that can help you. And we're going to jump right into what those services are. Lori, you identified some gaps that these caregivers are suffering from, not just here in San Diego, but all over the nation. The Elizabeth Dole Foundation did a study and they've identified these 3 gaps. So talk about those. And then we're also going to talk about a free seminar that military and veteran caregivers can go to on March 2nd to help understand and feel, I guess, a part of a community, to understand they're not alone and get the help that they need. So let's jump into this. Lori Van Tillburg from Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Let's talk about those gaps in services.
Okay, the RAND study, they were commissioned to do the study by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation to look at the needs of family caregivers, military and veteran caregivers across the country. And the top 3 needs of military and veteran caregivers are mental health, support for mental health, respite care, and education. And sadly, there's not really very much support out there for these family caregivers in those areas. There are a lot of other needs that they need as well in terms of, transportation, daycare, social supports, but those that I mentioned earlier were really the top three. And that's why, again, we're trying to develop help and support, and resources to provide, really mental health assistance to family caregivers. We hear a lot about veterans in the community and the difficulties and the challenges that they're going through, the suicide rate of veterans. Those issues apply to family caregivers as well, and yet there really isn't much support out there. Through Operation Family Caregiver, we're really able to work with that family caregiver to get them to look at their own needs, to develop a self-care plan, to do mindfulness exercises, to really take care of themselves, because so often, they are significantly depressed, they're very anxious, they're not sleeping, their health is deteriorating, they're trying to take care of their kids, they're trying to take care of their veteran, and, they're just really going under. And so the sooner
the suicide rates are increasing for these caregivers.
Right.
That is alarming. There is hope and there is help out there. And that's why we're here on air right now talking about it, because those people who are listening, that might be you, or it might be somebody that that is, you feel like you've reached the end of your rope. So we're helping you to tie a knot and hang on, because there are services available out there. So the mental health piece of that, we've talked before about grief and loss, communication skills, how to co-parent. So let's jump into that a little bit more deeply, because sometimes people think mental health, well, I'm not crazy.
Right. You
don't have to be crazy to need mental health help. So talk about that.
So we're going to be having a summit, an educational summit on March 2nd, and Mayor Faulkner is going to kick that off. It's the Hidden Hero Cities Summit, and that summit is going to be an educational program really designed to look at the mental health needs of caregivers. And like you said, it's not, that you're having, you're not crazy if that's what you're thinking. It's that, you need help and support, and you're struggling, and you don't have to do that alone. And, the three topics for that conference are going to be, the first one is on grief and loss. The second one is really, communication skills, because now you're thrown into having to advocate for your veteran and your family, and you may not have any understanding of how to do that, especially if you're trying to navigate, the bureaucracy of healthcare and trying to get things accomplished. And so, right, exactly. So, that's going to be the second topic. And then the final topic is going to be really, co-parenting or making life decisions when you have a partner that has traumatic brain injury, PTSD, or substance issues, which are, often a significant chunk of the population have that as well.
Okay,
or
so
all three.
Let's look at this. You got married to someone who is in the military. You had children. That person gets deployed. They get injured. They come back. Now they have PTSD. Or they're just struggling mentally or physically. And now you have the burden of caring for the children and this spouse who is struggling, right? And so now you're trying to figure out how to co-parent with this spouse who might not always be there mentally or physically to help pull equally that yoke. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. And that's really difficult. And so you have not only all the concrete responsibilities that you have to take care of, but that's really gets into the grief and loss. And I think many of the caregivers, they don't really identify that they're grieving, but, and that's partly because, when you think about grief and loss, oftentimes you're thinking about, well, my grandparent died, or, someone has passed away, and it's a finite activity.
Right.
This is something that's been referred to more as sort of that ambiguous loss or anticipatory grief, because, you're grieving, but you don't identify that because
nobody's died. They're right next to you.
The person's right next to you, but
so
they're not
there. So what are you grieving?
There.
What is it inside that you're grieving about?
So when, I've talked to many caregivers, they're grieving pretty much everything. They're grieving the loss of the life that they thought that they might have. They're grieving the loss of the fact that their partner's not there to support them. They're grieving the fact that they can't talk with their partner. They're grieving the fact that their partner may not be able to take responsibility or participate even in fun activities. And for many of these families, you can't do normal things when your husband, or your wife has PTSD or traumatic brain injury.
Right.
Simple things like going to a ball game or Disneyland, it's very difficult because of the noise and things that we just take for granted.
Exactly.
So, and when you're looking at, caring for someone for 50 years and you had all these, when you got married, or you were planning your life, you have all of these goals and you have all of these dreams, and that's not ever going to happen anymore. And, you feel sad all the time, but you don't know that it's grief. And so it's really, looking at that, because, your life is taking a different path, and not that, you can't move forward, you can. And, we try to focus on hope and resiliency, because many of these families are extremely strong. They've gone through many, many, factors already, and they've been successful.
Yeah.
So we do look at the positive side, but, you need to step back and understand that, this is why I'm so sad all the time. And this is why I need to reach out for help. And it's normal. I mean, it's very normal. And there are many, many caregivers feeling the exact same thing.
And you're not alone. That is so important.
Alone.
Lori Van Tillburg, Southern Caregiver Resource Center. We're talking about hidden heroes and support for you as a military caregiver. And mental health, grief and loss, it's so important. What about the communication skills?
So the communication skills, I think, are tough for a lot of people. And especially when you're trying to navigate a system where you're being told no all of the time.
Like the VA.
Exactly. And how do you get what you need successfully when you've never really learned how to do that? And like I said, many of these families, they're very young. They haven't had to go through experiences where they've had to face challenges like this. And how do you advocate, and how do you get what you want, but do it in a way that, is effective, and so that you're not just angry, or you don't just, fly off the handle, and you don't just, start, breaking down and crying. And so, it's really, how do you advocate, and knowing when to advocate, especially for, your veteran and for yourself. And so part of this is giving people tools to be able to communicate successfully, to get what they need for themselves and for their families.
I love what you said too, because as a young person, we're trying to figure out how to communicate effectively, and we try to do that for ourselves. Now try to do that, because when it's a life and death or health issue, you have to be good at that. You have to know how to navigate that, and you need to know where your resources are and get those advocates behind you. And that's what you're talking about. You can go to hiddenheroes.org, call. There's a hotline. If you need help, there's free caregiver coaches for you. The hotline number is 800-827-1008, 1-800-827-1008. That is a hotline that takes you right to Operation Family Caregiver, and you can be paired up for free with a coach to help you understand what services are available to you. So, Lori, we've talked about grief and loss. We've talked about communication skills. Now, the third part of this mental health summit that we're going to talk about is how to co-parent and partner. So those three things are super important to any family, let alone someone who's in this situation. So tell us about this summit.
So the summit is going to be on March 2nd, and it's going to be at the Recital Hall at Balboa Park. And it's going to have breakfast, lunch, and it's an opportunity to learn more about grief and loss, learn more how to co-parent or partner with someone with PTSD or traumatic brain injury, learn communication skills. There'll be a resource fair, so you'll be able to connect with a lot of resources in the community. And it's also an opportunity to talk to your peers, to talk to others that are in your situation, to understand that it's normal what you're feeling, to be able to, say, oh, you're going through that, so am I. And, when we've done these events in the past, it's interesting because many of the caregivers start developing conversations and becoming friends with one another, and then they follow each other on Facebook and they go to support groups. And so it's really a good way to get connected.
That is important. Connection. You've got to know that you're not alone. You've got to know that there is a support group out there of peers who are going through exactly what it is that you're going through. And maybe you think you're all alone and this is the worst case scenario, but then you get together with these people and you realize maybe you don't have it so bad, right? And so you kind of feel like this normalization of the feelings that you're having, and then how do you overcome and to be successful, to be healthy?
Right, absolutely. And I think it's interesting too, because, one person goes through one thing, another person goes through something different, but then they come together and they share solutions. And that's really what it's all about, finding out what's out there, what's worked for one person, what's worked for another person. And again, it's just not being isolated and thinking, I'm the only one going through this. There are other people out there that can relate, that can provide that help and support. But the key thing is to reach out, that reaching out really is a sign of strength, to say, I need help, and that, not being so sure of yourself that you can do it on your own. Because, one of the caregivers that we worked with, she waited and waited and waited until she was almost breaking down. And then she went through Operation Family Caregiver. And her message to others is why did I wait so long? Why did I feel like I had to do it on my own? And why didn't I reach out earlier? And so her message to others was to don't wait. Get help now before you start to, break down and your family starts to fall apart. And, there is hope on the horizon.
There is hope. And you guys provide that hope through your hotline and your website. So the hotline again, 1-800-827-1008, 1-827-1008. Call that number anytime. Get connected up. Operation Family Caregiver with a free coach to help you navigate and to understand the services that are available to you. Also, hiddenheroes.org, hiddenheroes.org. Again, understand what your resources are. Lori, we'll be right back with you. Lori Van Tillburg, Southern Caregiver Resource Center, right here on KCBQ AM 1170. Don't go away.
AM 1170. The Answer.
I'm Sean Vandiver. I'm a San Diegan and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I have veteran friends from all across the political spectrum, but there's one thing the best of us have in common. We want to keep the world safe so that we can make it a better place. That's why I joined the Truman National Security Project. We are a nationwide community forged in the aftermath of 9/11, fighting for America's promise on the battlefield, along the campaign trail, and in the halls of government. So check Truman Project out online on Twitter at Truman Project, on Facebook at Truman National Security Project, and online at trumanproject.org.
Hi, this is Flossie Hall, owner of Healthy Mama. I started Healthy Mama because I'm a mother of 4 and a military spouse and had a hard time finding healthy options for my family. I started this company to help keep my family on track with healthy meals without having the complicated tasks of cooking all day, every day. We offer the most affordable meal prepping service in San Diego. Healthy meals delivered to your door every Sunday. All you do is heat and eat. Order Healthy Mama meal prepping today at www.healthy-mama.com.
I tried to plan an exit strategy, but it didn't really work out as planned because you can't really plan for life. With Workshops for Warriors, my future is a lot brighter than it was. It was pretty tough before I came out here, but now I have options and direction.
Workshops for Warriors is a school in San Diego that trains and certifies veterans into advanced manufacturing careers, all at no cost to the veteran. They leave with portable and stackable nationally recognized credentials. Visit WFWUSA.org to learn more.
AM 1170. The Answer.
Welcome back, San Diego. You are listening to Military Mondays right here on KCBQ AM 1170. I am your guest host, Eve Nasby, sitting in for Daniel Lehman. And we have been sharing the studio this evening with Lori Van Tillburg from Southern Caregiver Resource Center. And we're talking about you who are caregivers. You might not realize it, but if you're taking care of someone and you're doing their grocery shopping, you're taking them to medical appointments, and you're sacrificing your own time to take care of yourself, it's an issue. And there's a lot of people out here in San Diego especially that are suffering and they're struggling. And so the Hidden Heroes City Summit, sponsored by here in San Diego, we've got San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is going to be there, and it's all about you as a caregiver. It's all about getting the help that you need. It's free for military and veteran caregivers. It's Thursday, March 2nd, 9:30 to 2. You can get information on hiddenheroes.org. And then we're back in studio with Lori Van Tillburg to talk a little bit more about some examples of the services that they have provided to people and the success stories that they've been able to achieve. So, Lori, welcome back.
Thank you. So Operation Family Caregiver, that's the key program for military and veteran caregivers. And it's 4 to 6 months. And it's a problem-solving program. And what that means is that caregivers come to us and we talk to them about what's going on in their lives, what's going on with their kids, what's going on with their veteran or their service member. And then they bring to us a problem that they want to focus on. And through that problem, it's a very structured program where they learn really how to solve problems in the most effective way. That then down the pike, because like I said, they're going to be facing challenges for many, many years to come, they're able to use some very basic skills so they don't become overwhelmed. And so, we've worked with many different problems, and it's a very simple program, but it's the beauty of the program is that the skills they can use with anything that comes down the pike.
Right.
And so for some families, like I said, education is a key issue for family caregivers, not understanding what traumatic brain injury is or PTSD and how that really plays out behaviorally. There was one woman who came to us and she was very depressed, very anxious, very depressed. And she had, her husband came back and he came home with a traumatic brain injury and PTSD, and their marriage was completely falling apart. Mm-hmm. And she felt that there was no intimacy any longer in their relationship, and she didn't understand it. And when he would tried to ignore her and things were going on in the home, she thought, it was purposeful. But then come to find out through working with one of our coaches and understanding really more the dynamics of the injuries that he had, she was able to effectively, work around that. And, the marriage is strong today. And a lot of it just came through, education. Many of the caregivers, though, come to us too, and they're very depressed, they're very anxious, and they haven't taken care of themselves, for a long time. Their health is deteriorating, and they're constantly getting sick. They never go to the doctor, yet they're always at the VA taking, their husband to the doctor.
Taking care of somebody else, right?
And so, we've been able to really change some people's lives around in terms of their sleep, in terms of, eating. Many caregivers, and it's very common, gain a lot of weight or lose weight because of the stress. And it's really getting them, to get on a self-care program for themselves. So, that's something else that we've done. One caregiver in particular, her husband has a significant traumatic brain injury and PTSD. And through the program, surprisingly, like I said, the problem-solving skills have been able to be used in other situations. Yeah. She has 5 children.
Oh, my.
And one of the kids is autistic. So she's been able to use those skills, with her autistic son to be able to, work more effectively in the family and to build a stronger and more resilient family. I think in general, too, when we look at Operation Family Caregiver, we've been able to see that caregivers are, reporting better health. They're, showing signs that their depression is decreasing, and overall they're happier. And I think, one of the things, in talking to a family that I found, quite touching, I was asking a little kid, so how's your mom doing? And he goes, well, I don't know. And we said, well, how are you doing? He goes, well, I'm so much happier because my mom and dad are feeling so much better today. And so, and it was all through, the family. And, we've also, seen some kids, it's like, through the skills that they're learning through Operation Family Caregiver, the whole family's picking up those skills. And, another family, one of the kids, the husband was getting, quite agitated and frustrated about a certain situation. And the young boy was like, okay, Dad, just breathe. You can work this out. Let's look at the problem. And so, it's an amazing program. But I think it's also something that if caregivers are struggling, and there are some very serious issues, that come up, regarding suicide, regarding domestic violence, regarding, problems in the home, problems with the children, we can really look at those and, help the caregivers to get, additional help and support if they need that. So,
and I think one of the biggest challenges, we were talking about this offline, is that the caregivers think that they can do it. And that if they ask for help, it might be a sign of weakness. Like, I can handle this. I'm a strong person. Well, yeah, you are strong, but you're not Superman. And there is a breaking point, and you don't want to go there. And keep in mind, yes, you are a strong person, and yes, you might be able to do this for a little bit, but at what cost? It's costing you your health, your mental health, your physical health. But let's take a look at those kids. And you might think you're able to hide it, but you're not. And those kids feel it, and they can sense it. So do you also give tools to these kids just as a natural byproduct of talking to the parents?
We do, because, we're able to look at the whole family situation. And one of the things in talking with the caregiver, we are looking at the anxiety level in the kids. And, if the kids are experiencing problems, we try to get them connected, with help and support for the children, connect them to the Military and Family Resource Center, look at activities for the kids. And, there are activities that the whole family can do together to decrease stress, and mindfulness exercises for the whole family. And so, we're able to really look at the family as a whole to build a stronger family. And I think that's, one of the things, because caregivers often don't reach out for themselves. It's, would you reach out to build a healthier family? Would you reach out to build a stronger family for your children? Because like you said, the kids do pick up on that stress and anxiety, and it's a scary world for them. And so the more stability you can build into the family unit, the better.
My daughter goes to a school here. She's 13 years old, and she's got just a great group of girls that she hangs out with. And the more that I hear about the background of these girls, the more surprised I am about how resilient these kids can be. just tragedy of murder-suicide, one of the girl's parents murder-suicide. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's so sweet. She's so kind. And then she gets adopted, and then those parents are divorcing. And so in the midst of all of this tragedy, she still has a great outlook and has good coping skills. And I think it's important for kids to know, and my daughter will come home and say, this person's so mean. And I immediately say, well, honey, they might have something going on at home. The parents, there might be some sort of anxiety there, anger there that's going on at home. You don't know. And so it's real. And their kids, and it's that ripple effect. These kids will take that anxiety into school. They might alienate themselves. They might be lashing out. Their grades might suffer. And so all that goes back to, if you're a caregiver, you need to get help. You need to get into a group of people that are going to support you, are going to hold you up to make your life better and life better for the future of your kids.
Exactly, because, we've talked about, when someone transitions out of the military or is deployed, everyone is affected by that. If you come home with an injury and an illness, your whole family is affected by that. And the kids, you have the primary caregiver, and usually, that's either the mom or the dad. But the children, as they grow up and, they take on caregiving roles as well, and they're stressed, and they're having to be hypervigilant, and they're walking on eggshells. And, we've seen that in families that have been out maybe, 10 or 11 years now, and they may have been young when their dad first got out, and the dad had PTSD, and there were a lot of issues in the home. The children develop PTSD as well, because they've lived through that. And so the whole family really needs support. And, one of the things that we try to do and encourage people to reach out before you reach that breaking point is, it's preventative, prevent something from happening so that, you can stay strong and together.
Yeah. And that for generations to come, you're breaking the curse right now so that generations to come will be healthier. I love that. So if you were talking to somebody right now who's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, that's me, what can they do right now to help themselves de-stress besides calling you at 1-800-827-1008? That is the hotline for the Operation Family Caregiver. You get a coach for free, 1-800-827-1008. What can they do right now as they're maybe heading home or going to bed, as they're listening? What can they be doing right now to help them get on the right track?
Well, I think that there are several things. I mean, I think the most important thing is to stop and think about yourself. Just for 1 minute, stop and think about yourself and what it is that you need. And once you look at that, then you can move forward. And if nothing else, just breathe. I mean, if you're really tense, just breathe. And that's one of the things that we focus on, with the caregivers, is to take a breath, to pause, to think about what you need for help and support, and to just take care of yourself. And that's a really hard thing to do. So I think reaching out for Operation Family Caregiver, coming to the summit on March 2nd, going to hiddenheroes.org to get connected on that website with peers, and to call, to pick up the phone, or to talk to a friend to say you need help.
I love it. All right, Lori Van Tillburg from Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Oh my goodness. Hidden Heroes City Summit. Please tell your friends. You guys just don't want to miss this. If you're a caregiver for a military veteran, Thursday, March 2nd, 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at the Recital Hall at Balboa Park, 2130 Pan American Road East. And again, I can't emphasize enough, get help. You're not alone. And the things that you're feeling and thinking are normal in a very abnormal situation that you're in. So let's all rally. And Lori, thank you again for being a part of our show and for all that you're doing. You've been doing it for 3 decades here in San Diego, and I'm sure the best is yet to come.
Thanks so much.
We will be right back with more Military Mondays right here on KCBQ AM 1170. Don't go away.
AM 1170. The Answer.
Hi, this is Nathan Fletcher, founder of the Three Wise Men Veterans Foundation, encouraging you to stand with us as we stand with those who served. The Three Wise Men were Jeremy Wise, Ben Wise, and Bo Wise. They're my cousins and my closest friends growing up. We always called them the Three Wise Men. Jeremy joined the Navy, became a Navy SEAL. Ben Wise joined the Army, was an Army Green Beret. And Bo Wise joined the Marines, where he continues to serve in the Marine Corps Infantry. Tragically, December 30th, 2009, Jeremy was killed by a suicide bomber in Khost, Afghanistan. Just over 2 years later, Ben Wise was killed in combat as well. Jeremy and Ben represent that generation of Americans who gave that last full measure of devotion. They gave their life for their country. Bo Wise represents that generation of Americans who survived combat that we now stand with as they not only survive but thrive in the peace that follows. I would encourage you to join our efforts by going to the number 3WM.org. Again, that's 3WM.org. Your tax-deductible contribution will really help us fulfill our message of reaching veterans.
Hi, I'm Bob Muth, and I'm the managing attorney of the Veterans Legal Clinic at the University of San Diego School of Law. The Veterans Legal Clinic at USD provides free legal services to veterans, active duty, reservists, and their families. If you've had issues when trying to use your post-9/11 GI Bill benefits at a for-profit school, or if you feel the VA is wrongly denying you medical or disability benefits, or if you need help correcting the characterization of your discharge, please give us a call to see if we can help. You can reach us at 619-260-7470.
My name is Mark West, and I am the chair of Surfrider San Diego. As a San Diegan, and as a person who's lived here in San Diego, we have one of the greatest coastal communities in all the world. We have 72 miles of beaches that stretch all the way from Tijuana to San Clemente. It's really our greatest natural resource. It's part of our culture, it's part of our history, and we need to preserve and protect it. And that doesn't mean I want to put a giant rope around it so it's pristine. No, I want people to go out and enjoy it and be a part of it, because that's what really makes San Diego a special place that we call home. If you feel as strongly as I do about protecting our ocean waves and beaches, get on our website. It's www.surfrider, that's surfridersd.org. Plenty of information about all our committees, events, ways to donate, everything you can find out just on our website. So www.surfridersd.org, and you can find out all you want about how to get involved and be a part of our family at Surfrider San Diego.
AM 1170, The Answer.
Hey, welcome back, San Diego. This is Military Mondays. I am your guest host sitting in for Daniel Lehman. And wow, what a great show we've had so far. We had Lori Van Tillburg from the Southern Caregiver Resource Center just talking about issues that veterans and military caregivers have and things that most of us don't think about. We focus in on the veteran or the person with a disability, and that is our main focus. But behind that person is someone who is literally giving their life so that that other person can live a better life. And so, again, please jump online, check out hiddenheroes.org, and that hotline number again is 800-827-1008. Now we've got one of our good friends, Roxanne Frigoso. She was formerly in the military, transitioned out, and has a good story to tell and some advice for other women out there who are in the military and facing that uphill battle, perhaps, of getting out. So, Roxanne, welcome to Military Mondays.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So good to have you here. So tell us your story. I think you're from the good old state of Texas.
Yes,
you get your boots on today?
No boots.
No boots. So talk about your story. You decided, obviously you're this gorgeous woman. You said, okay, I'm going to go into the military and talk about that. Because that's, sometimes women are like, no, I don't want to do that. But there's that motivation. So why'd you decide for a career in the military?
Well, after graduating high school, I went ahead and I started college, and from there, I put myself through college. I worked part-time, full-time college, and then finally graduated, got out, and okay, now you got to look for a job.
Right. Okay. So, no more being a student. What was your major?
My major was criminal justice.
Okay.
So I got a bachelor's in criminal justice.
Got a bachelor's in the bad guys.
Yes.
Or the good
good side. Yes,
how to take out the guy. All right.
Yes. So we had a job fair there at college, and while I was at the job fair, I ran into some Marines, and well, of course, their uniform, they look sharp, and I was like, wow, okay.
So were these guys or girl Marines?
I think both of them were male.
And you're like, ooh, I like those outfits.
Yes. And they looked
all about the outfit.
Yes. Yes, they looked great. And so, I started speaking with them, and it was great. But nothing, it put a little, I guess, something in my back mind of, maybe that might be an idea. Maybe that might be a route to take now that I've graduated. But I just never did it. And so from there, I ended up finding another job, and I started working and was working in the oil and gas business. Working with, of
course, you're in Texas.
Exactly.
Yes. What else is there to do?
Well, especially in Houston, yes.
In Houston, well, there you go.
The heart of it all, yes.
Right.
And so, I did that for several years. Went back, got my master's degree in forensic science.
Jeez.
And Yes.
Well educated.
I was busy. Yes.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were.
And working full time. So going to school full time and working full time.
Okay.
It was a lot, but I did it, finished it, did a thesis, and that
Holy
was,
smokes.
that was.
So I just want to let you know that right now you're blowing up the myth that a lot of people have. Maybe they still do. They had it in the past that you only go into the military because you don't know what else to do, and you really don't want to go to college. So you're like completely just exploded that myth right now. So now you're looking at the military with a master's degree behind you. So talk about that transition, and you're working full time in corporate America.
Yes, that's correct. Well, after being, I guess, in corporate America, it got to the point where, I mean, I had moved, up, I guess, what they call the ladder.
Right.
And I had moved around, worked for different engineering companies in the oil and gas. And it just got to a point where I just kind of was, I'm not happy. I wasn't happy. I've done, all my schooling. I've done what I needed to do. And I was just looking for something different. And I was looking for something, I felt like there was more out there for me to do, something to help people, something better to do, something, not that what I was doing wasn't good enough, but I mean, it just.
A little more meaningful?
Right. Maybe? I was looking, I think, more of a passion of, having a mission to complete something, having a mission to go out there and do something as a greater cause than just, what I was doing prior. And so one day I decided, you know what, I'm going to start looking into the military.
Wow.
And so now this is, at least a good, I guess, my mid-30s. And so, yeah, I did.
Wow,
maybe
you
a
are
little
not
backwards.
that 17, 18-year-old that just graduated from high school, barely.
No.
And decided, so mid-30s.
Yes.
Wow, okay, keep going.
And so I ended up, contacting the Navy, and I contacted the recruiters,
But wait, the outfit was with the Marines, right?
Yes, it was, yes.
But
well, let me get to that.
Okay.
So, yes, I contacted, pretty much, I guess, every branch. And I did start off with the Marines because I really had a heart for the Marines.
They're awesome.
So I think first.
Shout out to our Marines.
There you go. I think, my heart was first the Marines, and probably that's still where my heart is, although I became a Navy. I joined the Navy instead.
Okay.
And only because I was too old for the Marines. They wouldn't take me. And I said, okay, well.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. So I decided to join the Navy. Plus, I love the water, I love the ocean. And so there I was.
Yep.
So one day I finally, I told my family, hey, I'll be resigning from my company and 2 weeks prior before me leaving and getting sent out.
Wow.
And then, I told my family, and I think they were a little more shocked than I was.
Well, I'm sure they were. And, I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody that has transitioned from corporate world into the military world. So we're usually talking to how difficult it is to go from the military into corporate, but you have done the exact opposite. So tell me, how hard was it for you to assimilate to the new language and the new way of doing things from being corporate America to going into the Navy?
It was a little challenge, I will say that.
Yeah.
It was. It's weird. I mean, I've always looked up to and respected those in the military because, I mean, it is a big thing that people that choose to join the military and go and fight for a country, they have a lot of respect, and they should.
Yep.
And myself being a veteran now, I mean, it's now I see, everything, I mean, that they go through, they've gone through. There's a lot of things that civilians don't know what we've been through. And it was a little challenging at first, I have to say.
What about boot camp? Did you have to do boot camp?
Boot camp was, for me, I think being around other young women. So I was in my own women, I guess, platoon or command. And at the same time, there were just so much, they were so much younger than I was. And, a lot of them, I mean, I give props to those young kids, I guess you could say, because, I mean, you're right. A lot of it is they don't have the money for school. Others, it's been a family heritage for them. Like they're going to military, they're joining. And so
my grandparents served in the Civil War. I'm going.
Exactly. So, it was a little different.
Yeah.
I think for me, once I finally had made up my mind and I signed and I got sworn in and I took off, my mindset is what was set for boot camp.
You were resolute. And so you did boot camp. Did you go in as an officer because you have a degree?
I tried, but no, I ended up going enlisted.
Okay.
And same format, I guess, or same concept as far as a boot camp for enlisted and officer route.
So when you're in boot camp, was there ever a moment where you were thinking, oh my gosh, I'd rather be standing around the water cooler sharpening my pencil than being here right now?
Honestly, I mean, not really. I think because I had wanted to do it and I didn't want to live with the regret of I had the opportunity in life, but then I let it pass me, that I just kind of sucked it up is what I did and just went with it and knew that this is not going to last forever. It's only temporary.
Right.
Because after this, I graduate and then I get sent off wherever my station.
Then you get your own Navy water cooler.
There you go.
So you graduated obviously successfully through boot camp. What did you do?
I ended up being an operations specialist in the Navy, and I ended up working for a carrier air wing, actually here in Lemoore, California.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That must have been fun.
It was. It was very interesting.
What are the life lessons that you learned coming out of corporate, going into the military, which is unusual in itself, and now you've transitioned back out again into the corporate world? What lessons did you take from the military when you transitioned out back into the corporate world that you're now using in corporate America?
Well,
I'm paid to ask the hard questions.
Yes. I think, as far as just being older, you do have some of that, going from corporate America then to the military. Like I said, obviously it is a big transition just to do that. And then from going back from military to corporate America, it's a whole new transition all over again.
Right.
And so just, taking leadership, taking, more of initiative, knowing that, I can do anything. Like just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do just as well as a man can do it. Maybe, yes, men may have more strengths than me, but, as far as being, physical strength.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I'm incapable. It doesn't mean that I don't have the knowledge or that, hey, I can't learn to do something like that.
Right. So speaking to women right now, what are some tips that you would give them as they're in the military right now transitioning out? Because there's not a lot of people listening that are thinking, I think I'll join the military in my 30s. But if you are, you really want to talk to this gal. We've got 2 minutes left. So give us tips for transitioning out successfully as a woman from the military into corporate America. Because you've obviously done it successfully. You're now project management, doing IT stuff. You're amazing. So tell us.
Well, first of all, when you're getting out, I mean, you go through a transition course before getting out.
Right. Transition DPS.
Right. And so, but for me, I mean, knowing that I was going and getting ready to get out and, I was looking for a job. I started 6 months prior to getting out. Not knowing exactly, what my actual date was going to be, but I started looking. Not only that, I actually ended up, so the Navy, or I guess the military in general, they came up with a program that you can do an internship while you're still in the military before transitioning.
Yes, that's right. And so how do the folks that are in right now, how do they identify where they get more information about that? Because that's really critical. Because you're working, you're still in the military getting paid, but you're out there doing an internship. So where did you go?
So I only learned about it because I ended up, I got medically retired, I got wounded, and I got injured while I was on deployment. And so that's why I'm out. But talking, I guess, to my advisor that I had, she was the one that had told me about this program. It was for wounded warriors. It, look into it.
Yeah.
If anything, you'd be the first person that actually started this. From the base that I was at. And so I did. I looked into it. I contacted a guy. He's actually here in San Diego. I don't remember the actual name of the
That's okay.
place,
but the point is, it's out there. And we're all about putting resources into those who are listening who are in the military. We want you to have the resources to lead a very successful life. And this is one of the ways we do that. So your messaging, Roxanne, would be to start early to transition out. You, as a woman, can do anything. And you've got your own unique strengths. And take advantage of this program. If you are looking for an internship program, jump into that.
Yes.
All right, we are out of time, Roxanne. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. You're amazing. Thank you for your service. You're an inspiration to all of us, Roxanne.
Well, thank you
so
very much.
You are so welcome. Well, gosh, we've had a great show. Again, if you need information on Southern Caregiver Resource Center, if you are a veteran or military caregiver, give them a call at that hotline, 800-827-1008. And until next week, have a great week, San Diego. If you need anything, give us a call here at AM 1170, The Answer. We want to hear from you.